Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton. It's time for the recruiting breakdown. And Gerry, anytime we do the recruiting breakdown here on the channel, it's brought to you by Mark Saunders.
Yes, it is. Mark Saunders, the sole sponsor of the recruiting breakdown. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one singular place that protects it all? I got the guy for you. That's Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, who serves the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. He's the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, boat, motorcycle, RV, ATV, anything you got, this is your guy. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. I can guarantee you this, an OTF guarantee. You'll be in great hands with the over 35 years of experience that Texas alum Mark Saunders has at your disposal. Again, Austin, Round Rock area, and the entire state of Texas, give Mark Saunders a call, 512-218-8571.
Gerry, we've dissected Steve Sarkisian's Monday press conference from a variety of team standpoints.
Yeah,
obviously, this is the recruiting breakdown, so let's get into it from a recruiting standpoint. We talked about the impact of losing to Shard Choice, not only the impact it would have in the state of Georgia, but also the inroads he made in the state of Florida. And Sark is making it very clear, Gerry, that not only is Texas in Florida to stay, he's doubling down, and they've got an army now that can recruit the state of Florida. And Longhorns under Sark are going to be a major player in that state with the recent hires he made.
Yeah, I think there's right now, let's break this down. There's 14 offers, and we're going to get to some of those guys later in the show. 14 offers in the state of Florida in the 26th class. I doubt Texas is done offering guys in Florida. I mean, Grayson Littleton wasn't offered till November, a few weeks before signing day in the 25 class. But what Sark did, and he spoke specifically about Mark Orfe, he wanted to have a strong Florida presence. And he's gone way beyond that. I mean, Orfe's that as far as an on-the-field coach, right? The corners coach. He recruited the Florida Southwest Corridor Orlando for Rutgers with success. He was one of the guys that went after Grayson Littleton really hard, but obviously he wasn't going to get him at Rutgers. So Mark Orfe has that experience, but it goes a lot deeper than that on the staff now. Kenodo Hudson, who's now the Nichols coach who will recruit, is from the Tampa area. He coached high school football in Tampa. Chad Scott is from Plant City, Florida. He's recruited Florida for 15 years, 2 decades, however long he's been coaching college football. He's recruited that state and done so really well at like North Carolina when he was at one of the schools where he could go down and battle for 4-star guys. He's recruited really well out of the state of Florida. And then it goes even deeper than that. It goes into Aaron Joe, he came over from Georgia Tech as the GM to Texas, not as a GM in a different role, working with Brandon Harris. He's from Lakeland, Florida. So he's recruited Florida or been part of Georgia Tech identifying players and recruiting in Florida as well, being from Lakeland, went to Lake Gibson High there in Lakeland, Florida. Then there's Josh Dunson, who, while he's from the Atlanta area, he has helped recruit in Florida as the GM at Memphis and in those roles. So Sark doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down in Florida. Like I said, there's 14 offers now. I said on Coffee and Football this morning, Jeff, I think we're going to see there may be a cycle coming up where there's 20, 25 offers in the state of Florida. And I really think if you're going to sign 80 to 85% of your class from the states of Texas, Florida, and Georgia, you're going to have to offer 20, 25 kids out of the Sunshine State every year to get 3 or 4 because these are tough recruiting battles. And we're going to get into some of these guys and where they're at with them. But Texas is absolutely headed in the right direction. As I always say, selfishly, I like more trips to Florida to come recruiting. So good on Sark. Good job. Way to listen to OTF.
And I know an area you love, Gerry, because of the golf is that I-4 corridor going from Tampa, St. Pete through Orlando all the way up to Daytona Beach. If you think about the old Howard Schnellenberger state of Miami, that's the northern boundary of it. I know we talked about other parts of the state. Obviously, Pensacola, Jacksonville, the northern parts. When Florida and Florida State are good, they're going to dominate those areas. We talk about Miami and Dayton, Broward County. But that I-4 corridor being in the middle of the state, Gerry, is it in theory, quote unquote, easier to get kids out of that I-4 corridor?
Where Florida's always been split is Dade, Broward have always been Miami and Florida State strongholds. Then you get to that Southwest corridor of Florida, working up that I-4 corridor to Orlando. And that's always been more Florida when they're battling, obviously, FSU and Miami there. Auburn's been a player there. Clemson, when Dabo built Clemson, was a player there, which tells you what you can do in that area. But yeah, so I think Florida's more the team to beat in those areas. Then you get into Jacksonville, definitely a Florida area when they're up, and Florida State as well. But that's kind of Gators territory, man. When they're up, when Steve Spurrier's having a lot of success, Urban Meyer a lot of success. Now, all these schools have to recruit all over the state, but that's kind of the breakdown of it. And you look at Texas thus far under Sark, Jarrett Gibson from Gainesville, home of UF, right? Was committed to UF at one time, but went to IMG, so Southwest Corridor. Cedric Baxter's an Orlando guy, right? I mean, Peyton Kirkland was an Orlando guy. So you look at that. Michael Kern obviously was a St. Thomas Aquinas guy, specialist. Now we're going to get to some of these guys Texas recruiting. Jamie French out of Jacksonville, but Texas had a lot of success out of IMG recently because obviously Jordan Johnson Rebell's a Fort Worth kid that went to IMG. So there's some caveats with that. But Texas is doing Myron Charles is doing a lot of really good work in the Southwest Corridor. Myron Charles in this last class out of Port Charlotte. And we're about to get to these 26 kids. There's a lot of kids in the Southwest Corridor of Florida that Texas is truly in on and is going to have legitimate shots at.
Jerry, let's start in the backfield. Texas has their quarterback commit out of the state of Florida, Dia Bell, from one of those prospect factories down at American Heritage. But Derek Cooper also, I mean, look, when you're talking about the number one running back in the country, Tashard Choice got that guy for a couple years in a row at Texas with Cedric Baxter and Jarrett Gibson. So Derek Cooper's in that mix. Where do you think things are at right now, Jerry, with Derek Cooper at Texas since Chad Scott took that job?
So this is where it gets interesting. This is where you expand in the state of Florida. Derek Cooper's not an Orlando kid, not a Central Florida kid. He's the heart of it. He's in Broward County. I mean, there's some battle royales in Broward County, and he's at Chaminade Madonna, home school of Jeremiah Smith, Kenyatta Jackson at Ohio State, and multiple other big-time guys who've gone on to play college football in the NFL. So Hollywood, Florida, you can almost see the Fort Lauderdale airport from the school. That's a different area Texas is getting into, and for one of the most coveted prospects in the country. Now, Chad Scott's recruited that area before. He has had Derek Cooper on the phone since getting to Austin, because Tashard Choice had offered him in late January. I continue to hear Derek Cooper wants to get on campus for an unofficial visit. Now, he has official set. Texas doesn't have one. Texas isn't really worried about that. They just want to get the kid on campus and see where things go. And I do think there's a good chance that happens in March or April. We'll see. Though Texas got to keep working on that, but at least Chad Scott has a little bit of rapport there with Derek Cooper. So I think Texas is fighting an uphill battle. They've always were going to be fighting an uphill battle when they offered Derek Cooper, but he is a top running back in the country, and he's worth the time to put in. If you can get him on campus, look, Jamie French in Texas had never met face to face. That Jamie French had no idea really about the University of Texas until he went in the spring. And then Texas got an official visit, ended up winning the recruitment. I'm not saying that'll happen with Derek Cooper, but until you get him on campus, you never know. Once you get him on campus, if he deems it a good fit and Texas deems it a good fit, I would be surprised if he doesn't have an official visit to Austin.
Jerry, let's go to wide receiver. Chris Jackson spent some time recruiting in the state of Florida. Obviously, we know his background, having spent some time with the Jaguars in the NFL. Name Burrows, that recent commitment to Clemson. I'm assuming that's something Texas probably doesn't freak out about because they value Name Burrows as a prospect. But what does the wide receiver look out? What's that shaking out like right now?
Yeah, he's the one in Florida. Texas has 6 official visits set up, and they're spread around the country. Caden Dixon, Wyatt out of California, Caden Finley, Chris Stewart in Texas, Aaron Gregory in Georgia, and you go down that list. But Name Burrows, that was a little bit of a body blow early because there are people that were picking Florida. So that was a body blow for the recruiting industry, too. There were some Florida picks days before he committed to Clemson. Dabo has the no-visit policy. We'll see how that works. This is a long time to keep a kid of his caliber committed all the way until December, when you would sign that first week in December. Texas won't give up. They'll remain in contact unless the Burrows family just cuts off contact with all colleges. That's not normally how this works. We're going to check in on him later this week and kind of see, after a few days have gone by since that commitment, is he going to remain in contact with Texas and other schools? If he remains in contact with multiple other schools, then people will chip away at that with a chance to get him on campus.
I can't wait to see. We've talked about it a lot, Jerry, but the offensive line class, what it looks like when the dust settles. Samuel Roseboro, we talk about kids from the state of Florida. He was on campus on the 40 earlier this week. He's one of the guys. Kenya Pepe is another guy that we talk about. How many of these state of Florida offensive linemen, Jerry, you think are going to actually be guys that Texas goes down to the wire for?
I think Roseboro, and I think we have his huddle here, the offensive tackle from Clearwater, whose mom lives in Austin, one of the top right tackle here in this video, one of the top offensive line prospects in the country. Tony Hills loves him. He broke him down on Coffee and Football. Look, I think Texas, if they don't lead, they're right there at 1-2 for Samuel Roseboro. His mom got transferred to Austin for work. He's staying at Clearwater to spend time and finish high school. That's the plan right now with his friends who he's grown up with his teammates at Clearwater High here. He's against Clearwater Catholic, I believe. He can really pass pro. He is a right tackle prospect all the way, really talented. And he was on campus Monday and again today as part of his spring break with his mom living in Austin. Now, A&M, now that they know the mom lives in Austin, they're really coming after him too now that they know she lives in the state of Texas. He has all the major players in the SEC region and in the state of Florida coming after him. But I think Texas is in a really good spot. Kenye Pepe, Texas is trying to get on campus for an official visit. I think him, Brett Colajay, defensive lineman Cameron Brickle at IMG, I expect all those guys on campus in March or later in March or April for a day. We'll see if that then gets Pepe to the official visit finish line. But I suspect Texas will end up signing one offensive lineman out of the state of Florida in this class. And I think Texas has a legitimate shot at Sam Roseboro.
Jerry, we've talked about, from the flip it to defense, we talked about Trenton Henderson, the edge prospect out of Pensacola. What else is available for Texas on the defensive line in the state of Florida?
Yeah, so Trent Henderson out of Pensacola, an area Texas really has never signed. They've never signed somebody out of in football. He's coming in April for an unofficial. He has his official visit set, but again, Texas isn't really worried about that. They just want to chip away. They want to get these kids to campus, then see if they can get them to adjust the official visit schedule or continue this process into the season, which, again, Sark isn't worried about all this stuff right now. He's trying to get these guys to the finish line in December, understanding this recruiting process is really crazy and kids will continue to take visits even after committing in some cases. But on the interior D-line is where it gets interesting. So Texas, I believe, will get an official visit out of Kendall Gurville out of North Fort Myers. He is one of the top defensive linemen in the country. And then you have James Johnson, who's more of a disruptor. Gurville's more an over the ball that can play to three. Then you have James Johnson from that same area, that Fort Myers, North Fort Myers area. He's more of the 6'2", 285-pound disruptor. Well, Texas is trying to get both those guys on campus this spring. And then for June officials, I know Kendall Gurville's talking to Texas either about the 6th or 8th, or maybe getting the 20th, 22nd visit. He'd have to move around his official visits for that. But both those guys, I think Texas is going to be in on. I think they're real dogfights, though. I mean, these are tough recruiting battles. You got to beat Florida for Kendall Gurville. James Johnson the same. Miami's in it for those guys. Georgia's in it. I mean, it's all the top schools in Florida and all the top schools in the Southeast region, plus Michigan with Kendall Gurville as well. So he is one of those guys that everybody wants. But Texas is going to be right there. We'll see if they do anything with Cameron Brickle out of IMG, who's originally from the Pittsburgh area. He moved down to IMG this semester. Texas offered him when he was up at Pittsburgh. Kenny Baker went to see him. We'll see if anything comes about there after a visit. Then there's Jake Cruel, the edge prospect at IMG, who's really come on with college as a spring. He's scheduled to be on campus in April. We'll see if Texas makes a push there at edge, because I still think Leon Clark has not done offering edge prospects, or he's really built out his for sure board yet. We know a few guys, Trenton Henderson, Luke Waffle up in New Jersey at the Hun School in Princeton, the new offer, Kamari Brooks out of North Dakota, who says he's going to visit in April. But in the state of Florida, we'll see if they make a push on anybody outside of Henderson at edge.
You know, we started talking about guys on the Texas roster with ties to Florida that Sark and the staff have recruited. You mentioned Michael Kern from St. Thomas Aquinas. Let's go to St. Thomas Aquinas, but we're not going there to talk about specialists, Jerry. We're going to talk about corners, and we're talking about corners with really good bloodlines.
Yeah, Justice Finkley, the younger brother of one of the NFL's top safeties, Minka, Justice Fitzpatrick, one of the younger brothers of Minka Fitzpatrick. Minka obviously signed with Alabama out of high school. He's originally families from New Jersey, moved down to Florida, as they should. But great. That's a great move for Justice playing at St. Thomas Aquinas. But the key there in this recruitment for Texas, he's going to visit in April. He's got a June 13th official visit set up. Texas is going to get him on campus twice. Now they're facing an uphill battle in this recruitment, but you're going to be facing him. You got to get it. You got to get in it to win it, just like Justice Terry and other guys. Kirby Smart has a real long-standing relationship with the Fitzpatrick family. He was a big part of the recruitment of Minka to Alabama before he was hired at Georgia. So he has a really deep ties with that family, with Minka Fitzpatrick himself. Obviously, that helps Georgia quite a bit, and Georgia's had success in South Florida in recruiting Tyson Campbell, a number of guys, Isaiah McKenzie over the years out of South Florida area, Sony Michelle. I mean, so there's a Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook. There's a lot of Georgia love in South Florida because of the success kids have had. So Kirby's got a lot going for him in that recruitment, but Justice has legitimate interest in Texas. Again, unofficial visit in April, official visit in June. And I think Texas will be right there for Fitzpatrick, having Mark Orfe, who's recruited the state of Florida, Jeff Banks, who recruits STA, and Chad Scott. Again, number of guys in the state of Florida with experience to help with this recruitment. Obviously, Jeff Banks might have some ties from the Alabama time as well. But it's an uphill battle with Georgia, but Texas is getting him on campus twice. And Jeff, before we get out of here, we got to mention kicker.
Yeah. Kickers need love too.
Gaston Grammatica out of Tampa area. Obviously, NFL bloodlines at the kicker position. He's going to make an official visit June 13th. Seems like Texas is the favorite for him. Now, does that mean they will be after the June visit? We'll see. But it sure does seem like Texas is maybe in the driver's seat for the kicker Gaston Grammatica out of the Tampa area. So Texas is going to – I think they're going to have they have 14 real offers out there in Florida. I expect 11, 12 of those kids to end up visiting Texas at some point. It may be unofficial. Some, obviously, there's 4 official scheduled. We'll see what Burroughs does. I think there'll end up being 6, 7 official visitors out of the state of Florida. So half of those guys offered right now, and I think there will be more offers made in Florida, I think may take official visits. So Texas is in a really good spot in the state, and you have to cast that type of net if you want to pull in 2, 3 guys a year from the state.
Well, Jerry, before we wrap it up and get out of here, let everybody know one more time about our sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown, and that's Mark Saunders.
Yeah, Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders serves the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. He's the only insurance agent you will need in the Lone Star State. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Texas alum Mark Saunders has you covered. Call his office today, 512-218-8571. Again, Austin, Round Rock area, entire state of Texas. Texas alum Mark Saunders has you covered.
All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for this edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. We'll have everything covered for you here on the channel. If anything breaks, obviously we'll get you covered at ontexasfootball.com. And don't forget, if you're not a subscriber at ontexasfootball.com, you definitely want to jump over there with spring visits coming up. Then June official visits. It's going to be insane leading up to the start of the season. So get over to OTF right now. OTFOG is the promo code to get you $49.95 for a 1-year subscription. Again, spring visits, spring football, June official visits. Then SEC media days will be here before you know it, Jerry. Then we'll be at camp, the season.
Basketball coaching search, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps certainly trending that way as we sit here right now. But whatever it is, we'll get you covered at ontexasfootball.com. Again, just use that promo code OTFOG. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Jeff Howe. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, welcome.